So for you, being the head of this digital marketplace, in charge of development and growth of it, massive undertaking, especially when you think about the number of unique sellers on that kind of platform. What's the challenge that you've solved that was important in this space?
I think the bigger thing for us has been content and the item journey as a whole. And, you have to think about it. Marketplaces is such a unique but also emerging space in retail right now. I mean, you look at the landscape, everyone is going there. So your sellers that are fueling your marketplace, that data integrity is so warped to a degree because it's not unified, because every retailer in every marketplace has different requirements, right? So there isn't a universal standard for that. And so for me, it was, how do I make that uniqueness and customer experience for Kroger more optimal? And that's when the conversation and partnership started with Sanjeev and the rest of the intelligence node team about how do we uniform that and really bring in content standards in terms of what that is for our seller base. And so when you look at that across the landscape of, the thousands of sellers we have, it is really the uniformity of that. And the examples I could go on, but the more obvious is definitely descriptions to imagery, but also the categorization. Apparel is different than how you have to set up tomatoes, right? Or how you set up a blender versus the proposition of a pork loin, right? So you want to keep that experience, as seamless as possible, and keeping them at the forefront as well too. So really making it a collaborative journey has been important for us and with our partnership with Intelligence Node. But I think the key part is post-launch, when we started content quality, was really how it impacted sales. The positive part is, looking at a cohort of, adopted sellers, we saw upward of 30 to, 23 to 30% on week over week GMV positivity, right? So that's really one of the core things for me that keeps me up at night and for our customers. But it's so important. And when you think about the shopping journey, it literally starts with, what am I looking at? Is it what fits my needs? And that really comes from the quality of what the consumer is looking at. So that's the perspective with me for, a universal platform that's highly important for both our customers shopping on Kroger and also for our sellers.
I love that point too, because we often forget on the consumer side, you're having to serve two audiences there. Yeah. There's Kroger shopper, and then that person who wants to sell through the Kroger's network, yep, which is a small business with their own products. But to your point, you have so many of them, and the quality of that content could be so varied.
Just so varied.
And you have to, if you don't help them with that, your shopper's not happy. So you have to balance. It's like a seesaw effect on both sides of that.
Yeah, and when you think about it, it's one of the things that, marketplaces and, professionals in my space we talk about all the time is the intersection of the customer experience and the seller experience. And those are two very, very important things. And, I've been in retail since 2013 and marketplaces specifically my entire career. And, being at certain retailers, you either lean towards the customer and you negate the seller, but to do it right, you really have to bring those parallels together, and they intersect, definitely.
It's a great point, too. I mean, you think back, 2013, not a long time ago, but yet when it comes to marketplaces, very early days, and this has moved so fast, and it's so important to the retail industry.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, when you think about it, marketplaces, and speaking just in very explicit terms about what the landscape now is that every retailer, to be successful now, you have to have a marketplace strategy. And you look at the landscape now, and it's really interesting. I think I'm probably get ahead of some of the talk, but I'll repeat this. But it's important. I think that one of the things I'm really excited about are more brands specifically going into marketplaces versus, it's great. But I think once they're more comfortable with it, it's going to be even a more domino effect because that really ties into even brand protection. And that's a whole different topic. We could have a whole conversation about that. But I'm really excited to see more as more retailers get into the space, that more brands are more adaptable to joining marketplaces as well, too. So.